Welcome to Loud Librarians Lead with Laura Kelly. Today, Anelis Coscioni, Director of the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota, and Lisa Martin, Director of the Madison Public Library, are joining me today to talk about providing toy lending boxes to South Dakota families. Hello, Anelis and Lisa.
Hi.
I'm so excited you both were able to join me today for this interview. And it's so wonderful to have two different outlooks on the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota. So Anelis, can you start today by just telling us a little bit about the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota?
Thank you for having me here and for helping us tell our story. We started a few years ago. I was doing an unmet needs search in the community, and I learned there are many families, especially in the downtown area of Sioux Falls, that didn't have toys for their children to play and learn. And together with a group of amazing volunteers, we started a free toy library for children 0 to 5 years old. And we create these beautiful toy boxes that you can see behind me here. And they're available to check out free of charge.
Wonderful, Anelis. I know it's so neat to see all those boxes behind you and knowing that we can use those throughout our state. I know it's pretty exciting because you guys are celebrating an anniversary this year, right?
Exactly. In February 2022, we celebrated our 7th anniversary. And it's super cool because we stopped and we started looking at the numbers. And on the first year, we had 251 toy boxes circulating in 1 year. And last year, we had more than 3,500 toy boxes circulating, being checked out and renewed. And this year, since the year started, we're having more than 400 boxes being checked out every month. So it's incredible what's happening.
It's so amazing to look back and see that growth and how many families you are reaching now. It's so exciting. Lisa, how did you become involved with the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota?
Well, all right. So last year for SDLA, I attended the lightning round and Anelis was part of it. And she came on and just gave her like 10-minute talk about the toy boxes. And I was just so excited and inspired by what she was saying. It was something that we had always wanted to do at our little library, but we had even tried, but it was expensive, time consuming, and just a lot of handling of items, and we couldn't handle it as a staff. And so we tried to do other things here, but to hear her say that you can do it free of charge, we would love to offer it to anybody. I was super excited. As soon as that lightning round was over, I emailed her and she had gotten back to me by the end of the day and we were already planning it. So it was like smooth. I loved it. It's been very easy to work with the Toy Lending Library. Oh, and I should say that we're so grateful for their outreach and the help that they've done in our library, that when she was looking for a librarian to be on her board, I volunteered.
So you're just continuing that relationship, which is wonderful to be able to give back. So how did you get started once you've established with Anelis? How did you get that started in your library, Lisa?
All right, well, so the first thing that we needed to do was locate space in our library to put these boxes. We did a book CD collection that wasn't going well, so we were able to just create space on shelves. And we went down and got the boxes and brought up, I think we started with anywhere from 25 to 50, I'm not quite sure, and used the barcodes that were already on them. That's the Siouxland barcodes, but we just put them into our system so that we weren't putting too many barcodes on the boxes, and just simple cataloging and then put them out on the shelves. And then I went out to all of the preschools, which I have a relationship with the preschools anyway, and brought a toy box there and talked about it to the preschools. I had them take home the bookmarks that the Toy Lending Library offers. The Toy Lending Library on their bookmarks has the address down in Sioux Falls, but I kind of cheated and covered it up with our library's address and sent them home. And then we put up a big sign over the boxes in our library to draw attention to it. So that's how it got started.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And, sometimes it starts with that idea and then logistics get worked out along the way, right? Where could we fit them? How do we get the word out? All of those pieces. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Anelis, you have mentioned to me that you want to continue to grow your services and engage other public libraries. How would they get involved? What is the first steps for them?
Our vision in the next 20 years is to build 100 collaborations or partnerships throughout our state. And the libraries are the perfect place for us to partner with, because you already have them coming to get books, and then they can come and get toys with you. And they are educational toys, and it's just, for me, it's a no-brainer. If you don't have the resources, you can have our toy boxes there. So it always started, on the beginning, we didn't have a big location to have a library where people could come and play here, and it continues to today. Our office is mainly creation of toy boxes, repair, cleaning and sanitizing. How do we make this happen to be reach more children? And so we started collaboration with the Ceylon libraries, and now we have Lisa in Madison, we have Lyle in Parkston, and we just started a collaboration. It's a pilot project with the Watertown Regional Library, and this is the first time that they got trained to do the toy cleaning and sanitizing over there. We'll see how it's going to happen, and I really want that to work, because then that will allow us to easily have the boxes to places that are farther away from here. All the other libraries, you just borrow the toy boxes, send them back, the ones that people return to you, and we clean and sanitize, and you get more.
So it's great to know that you guys can do the sanitizing for them. Normally, that's all taken care of. And then how many boxes do you usually send at a time, Anelis?
When we started a partnership, we make sure that we have 50 new toy boxes, and I give to the library around 25. We are very flexible, and we want to make it work. So if they don't have room and they want to last, they take less. If they have a lot of room and they want to take more, they take more. 50 is just my number to make sure that I have 25 extra for you when you come, you bring your boxes, that I can have the other ones ready for you to take. But we are very, very flexible, like how many boxes you take. We want to do what works for you. Inside of our toy boxes, we have a toy or more, a book, and informational material. We learn with librarians like you that if you play and you read, or a child's read through, it's a more complete learning experience. And that's why we made an effort to add one book to every toy box. We do our best to match a book that is age appropriated to the toy box. But if sometimes I don't have the perfect book, you can always work with colors. You can work with numbers. There's different ways that you can include a book when you are playing with a toy. Our toy boxes, they are color coded by age group, and it's from 0 to 5 years old. And so once you figure out what is the age of the child, it's easy to go and look at the color of the box, or there's a label that shows you the age group. And it also says that 3 years old plus. And every piece of toy inside of the box has TLL for Toyland and Library. And sometimes families, they don't find all the pieces when they have to return that box, but they'll find it later and they will send it later. And that's one of the things we do here. We keep the boxes for a few weeks when they are returned with missing pieces, just to see if that comes back, and then I don't have to spend money on buying that toy again, which is always good. A lot of times people find those pieces and they send them back. Also, inside our toy boxes, we have the milestone books from the CDC, and I have an example here. This is the book for the 2 years old. And they have a little story in that, and they have the milestones that that child should be reaching. The best part of it, it has all the resources where to look for help if you're concerned that your child is not reaching those milestones. We have those in every toy box, and people can keep that for themselves, or they can share with somebody they know they want to know more about their child development.
Thank you so much, Anelis. It's so great to think of all of those materials in one box, thoughtfully put together. And like Lisa stated, not every library would have the funds to purchase all those materials, replace them, like you said, and this would be a great partnership. I wanted to go back to Lisa a little bit, and can you talk a little bit like how the process has evolved at the Madison Public Library, and how is it received throughout your community, these toy boxes?
All right, well, the boxes have been received very well. We checked them out We do have a waiver that the Toy Lending Library gave us that we have our patrons sign. To start with, we wanted to start small with just one box per patron, and we wanted it to be adult patrons. As we see the need, we will change that, but we figured it was better to go to level up rather than, if it wasn't working, to bring it down. The adult patron signs a waiver that just basically says that they understand that the toy box is suitable for a certain age. It doesn't all of our patrons get worried like, oh, this means I have to bring every piece back and they're going to come and get me. I'm like, no, read it. It wants your children to be safe while you use these toys, and that you understand that. And then we say that here at the Madison Public Library and at the Toy Lending Library, they understand that they are giving these to children, and that children will behave like children, and they will find a way to use these toys in the dirt or out, in a different toy area, and they might not come back, and they might not come back right away. And Anelis spoke to that, or they might not come back ever, and they're very forgiving about it. The point is to have the children learning and playing, and it just doesn't do any good to get crazy about that, because we're working with children. And I really appreciated that philosophy. It matched with ours really well. One thing that we were surprised at is that we were offering these boxes, and I was thinking to parents and children, or to caregivers and children, and I hadn't realized that grandparents are major caregivers of their children, and they don't always have toys at their home. So we will have grandparents or patrons that we don't really see very often come in when their grandkids are coming in from out of town to grab a box and some books, because they don't have these things at home. And it's been a wonderful way to connect with patrons, at least on the children's end of the library, that I didn't see before. And then I'd also love to mention that I use them for, my children are older, but I use them for our children here in Storytime. If I'll look for a box to see if it will match a Storytime theme, or I'll even look at a box and go, I can make a Storytime theme out of that. One of our favorites was a dentist one, where it had a set of teeth and the tools. It had a little drill that you pulled, and it even shook, and the kids they just loved it, and it went so well with our teeth story time. So another great way that we librarians can use them.
Well, it's so great to model that for the parents, like how you could check this out, what it would look like to interact with their children and the story. So you're doing some teaching as well. I love that.
Kids really love that box. It's so interesting because you see that at the dentist, but it's kind of like even scary. But for have something that you can play and have fun and not be scary, I think it will even end up helping kids not being so afraid of the dentist. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was a great one to pick too. So Lisa, how do you work out the transportation of getting the boxes back and forth from your library?
This was the trickiest part. It still remains the trickiest part, but it is worth it to do this little bit of extra work. So at first it was just me dropping off and picking up the boxes. And because of my workload, I wasn't doing it as quickly as I wanted to. We did invite our friends of the Madison Public Library to start, and they have taken up a little bit of it. I developed a sheet that just has all the information that's really on the website, on the Toy Lending Library's website. Their hours, the phone number, the directions, and then I even pulled some directions off of Google Maps and printed them out just so that everything was in one place. It also explains on our sheet that they are welcome to pick up the boxes themselves, our volunteers. Like, we expect if they pick up 10 boxes that they'll come back with 10 boxes, and they can pick those boxes out themselves. And I will say it's so much fun choosing boxes. I feel like Santa Claus when I do it. And then I get overexcited. It's like buying books where you just can't. Some of the people, they don't feel comfortable doing that. So I just give a call or an email to Anelis and say, will you choose 10 boxes? We're sending back like 3 infant boxes, 2 2-year-old boxes. And I gave her the stats, and then she pulls them for me. And then our volunteers can just swap them.
So nice to be able to make that process as simple or more complicated. If they're willing to go in and shop, like you said, and pick out the toy boxes, then they have that ability. So you said that you had the Friends of the Library. Do you have any other organizations that you partner with for picking up boxes?
So we are working with our Kiwanis right now. I went and spoke to them. I introduced what a toy box was. I can't tell you how impressed they were. You could see, because a lot of them are grandparents, you could see their minds working as they looked at the toy box and went, that's really nice. And then they were excited to have me mail out that form. And we just made it super simple. I said, if you show up at the library and say that you're going to Sioux Falls tomorrow, we will give you whatever we have to be returned and you can swap it. And if there's nothing, then we'll just say thank you so much for thinking of us. But we tried to make it as easy as possible, and they seem to really appreciate that. So I'll send out a couple of reminders probably every other month to let them know that we appreciate their help, and if they're going to Sioux Falls, to consider stopping by the Toy Lending Library and making that swap.
That's wonderful. I'm sure they just enjoy being a part of bringing that to your community. All right, back to Anelis. I know that you've been collaborating with the South Dakota Braille and Talking Book Library here at the State Library. And I visited with Kate Cozier, and she mentioned how excited they are that they've been able to provide you with toys and books that help meet specific challenges with visual impairments. And they really want to just help grow and develop those patrons. So Kate expressed that their hope is to help break down the barriers of some parents face in locating the materials that they might have difficulty. They want to make them accessible and fun in mainstream ways so their children fit right in with their peers. Can you explain how these new toy boxes were created?
Well, I was so excited when I talked to Kate, and it's like, wow, we have some toys we can donate and some books. And I was like, oh my gosh, we were just starting, and I have 2 volunteers, and they wrote down a list of abilities that children can work on it. And then we made a collaboration with Augustana University, where 2 professors come here and they look at the toys that I have, and they go and they check mark on what that toy can help with. So our toy boxes for children with disabilities, which right now I'm working on changing into toy boxes to work on special abilities, because right now I have children with disabilities. They already borrowed the toy boxes from us. And I have children that the parents ask because they want to work in special abilities. So this is going to be more inclusive for everybody, but they have signs or little symbols in the toy boxes can help with. And then caregivers will be able to choose, like if I'm looking for 5 motor skills, it's a little hand. So I can look for that hand. I'm very excited. I talked to Kate and she connected me with Richard Crawford, that now is our volunteer here. And other than helping me learn about double vision books, there are books that have on one side, and I can show you one. It's a storybook like you have in your libraries, but if you touch, there is Braille here. So the information in Braille, the same inside. And he told me that he used to read these books with his children that can read. So it was a way for him to work together, their literacy. So right now, because of that, Richard comes to the library and he's writing a description of what's inside the toy boxes in Braille for us in each toy box. And another thing, he can give free Braille lessons to anybody who wants to learn across the state. He can do it to the phone, and he can help anybody who wants to learn Braille. So I'm very, very thankful. I'm very excited for this collection to start happening. And we have toy boxes that are ready. They're going out. And I'm working on putting my website. So anybody from across the state can look at those toy boxes and see if they want them. And we need to figure out how to get them to you. It doesn't have to be, even if you're a library and you don't want to partner with us to have the toy boxes, but you see boxes in our website, they are for children with disabilities, and you have somebody that will benefit, talk to me and we can get just those boxes for you. Like, we want to make these boxes to get to the children that need them.
Sounds like you just have a wonderful partnership and volunteers, and you're just making these materials accessible to everyone, which is so exciting. So librarians, if you're looking for something this in your community, please reach out and talk to Anelis and they will make it work. Well, I just want to thank you both so much for sharing your experiences, but we're not done yet because we always wrap up the vlog with a few book recommendations. So we're going to start with that early literacy, which is perfect for the toy lending boxes because that's what area we're really focusing. Anelis, can you tell me a book that you would recommend for that early literacy age range?
Well, one of the books that I love that I used to read a million times for my daughter, and it's one of those that I kept that is not going anywhere, is 10 Little Fingers, 10 Little Toes from Men Fox. I just love that book because it talks about kids all around the world and how unique each child is.
Lisa, what about for you? What would you recommend for early literacy?
I have found, and it's now my new favorite book. It's called Friday Night Wrestle Fest by J.F. Fox. And it is just such a fun book about a family on Friday night. They have their pizza and then they wrestle to get into bed. And it starts out with the dad, the kids, and it's colorful, it's playful. As I've read it across preschools and story times, the parents and teachers are as interested as anyone because they're like the tag team twins and Nutty by Nature Peanut Brother and the Wriggly Giggly Jellyfish. I mean, the words are fun. My favorite is they start by wrestling dad, who looks, intimidating in his socks there and his tie around his head. But then somebody comes in, and who is it? From out of nowhere, it's Flying Mom Bomb. That's right, folks. The one and only Mama Rama has entered the ring. She's home from work and going berserk. The kids love it, and you can get into your fun voices. I recommend it as a story time book. I recommend it to parents. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Lisa. I think both of those sound great and get some good giggles out of it, right? Yeah. Do you have a book that you would recommend for the children's category? We're kind of looking at that kindergarten to about age 11. Lisa, we'll start with you this time.
Oh, okay. This is another one, and I kind of paired them together, but I realized that this was kind of for the older kids. It's called Bathe the Cat, and it's also about a family, and they have a list of things that they need to do before, I think, Grandma comes to visit. And, mop the floor, scrub the dishes, vacuum the rug, feed the fishes, mow the lawn. And then the last one is bathe the cat. And you can see the cat doesn't feel real good about that. And so why it was a little bit older, because the cat keeps swapping the letters. So it becomes, instead of bathe the cat and stuff, it becomes feed the dishes. And so they're trying to feed the dishes or sweep the dishes. They're trying to wash the rug. And it's so silly and fun. And it's with that word swap, it's a little bit older. And I thought it would be tons of fun to pair it with a word swap yourself. Like if you had these letters, or just could you home yourself, or you could, instead of mowing the lawn, you're mowing the rug. I thought it'd be a lot of fun for older kids to play with that.
Love it. What a fun, it'd be a fun way to incorporate it into a program and write a poem or something afterwards. Thank you. Anelis, how about for you? What would you recommend?
I love Elephant and Piggy books from Will Williams. And one of the awesome ones is Waiting is Not Easy. It's worth waiting the whole book until you see the last page, which I'm not going to say what it is. It's just amazing. It's just wonderful. I love it.
It is so fun. Elephant and Piggy just feel like two friends that you meet up with each time, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to look at that teen category. Anelis, we'll start with you this time. What would you recommend with teens, for teens?
Okay, so my daughter is not a teen yet, but one of the books that I think that other kids will like, and this is the second time we're listening to, is Sal and Gabby Break the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. And it's just a beautiful book. It's fun. It's super fun. And it's sad too. It makes you laugh. It makes you cry. But it also has a boy that he's trouble. And then we learned that he's trouble because it's hard on his family. And so it kind of like with pandemic, families are hurting. And sometimes what kids are showing is just a reflect of what's in back home. And so makes you give a little bit more of empathy for other kids. It's just a beautiful book to listen to. We love it.
Wonderful. Yeah, and it's so great. You can do that audio, or you can, read it together, but stimulate some great conversation, right? Yes. How about you, Lisa? What would you recommend?
It's called Lore Olympus, and it is now a book. How I found it. A teen recommended a webtoon. And so it started out as a webtoon. That's an app that you can download, and it's now been, their first season has been put into a book, and it would be a graphic novel, and it was just so much fun and so beautiful. And I think it's really important for us librarians to connect to the new way that our teens are reading, which is online. And I'm absolutely going to buy that, the book for our library, but also I mentioned it to other kids, and they're like, "You read webtoons?" And I was like, for the first time, and I love it. It's such a fun story. It's about, the gods on Olympus, and it's all soap opera, which is really what they are. So it's a ton of fun. I really recommend it.
So I love thinking about that new format too with webtoons. Often you'll ask kids like what they've read, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't read a book in a long time," but they don't realize how much reading they're doing online all the time. And so, yes, they are reading a lot more than they realize. So thank you for that recommendation, Lisa. How about for the adult category? What do you recommend?
I'm listening to an audiobook. The Last King of America. It's about King George III. It's just a history book, but apparently the Royal Archives have opened up that era. So they keep their records and documents sealed for so long. And now the King George III has been opened up, and it's fascinating because he was the last king before we formed our country here. So it's fascinating to learn about him, what it meant for America. And also it is another soap opera, and it makes me feel so good about my family. So I recommend it. It's a lot of fun, but I'm kind of a history buff. So it's very well researched, and I recommend that.
Anelis, what about you? What would be your recommendation for adults?
If I have to choose one book, there's many, many wonderful books out there. But if I have to choose one book, it's Broadcasting Happiness from Michelle Gillen. And this book, it's all about, there's always two ways you can share your story. The way we choose to share our story here at the Toy Lending Library is that great things are happening. Children are learning and having fun because of the toy boxes we are creating. It's beautiful. And I'm here to invite you to be part of what we are doing.
I just want to end with saying how grateful I am to be able to share this with the rest of librarians. What a wonderful program this has been, and how grateful we are for the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota and the amazing work they're doing. Thank you. It's wonderful.
I just want to say thank you to Lisa and to all the other libraries that collaborate with us, because through you, we are able to reach many more children. If we were just in our little office here, we wouldn't be able to go where we are going today. So we are very thankful for all that you are doing out there to help children learn through play. Thank you.
Anelis and Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time today to visit with me and on librarians across the state of South Dakota, and just sharing your knowledge of the Toy Lending Library of South Dakota and your book recommendations. So I just want to say, before we leave today, that remember, librarians are not just buns and shushing anymore. Bye, South Dakota librarians. See you again soon.